Hello. Today we're going to be doing something just a tiny bit different on Record Low Rollers. I'm Kyle. Hi, I'm one of the co-hosts here. Yeah, the screen's black on purpose. I wanted to do a deep dive alone with one of my favorite classes, and I think it got a little bit less than lucky in this edition of Dungeons and Dragons. It's probably pretty obvious what that class is, but today I am going to be talking about the Ranger. It's always been a favorite of mine. I grew up watching Lord of the Rings and reading Lord of the Rings, and I just love Lord of the Rings, I'll be real with you. The Ranger class was very much inspired by the Aragorn character, who is a Dunedain ranger from the north, and he's kind of good at everything. And he's this marvelous nature hunter, tracker kind of guy. And, that's all well and good. And it inspired a whole archetype of characters that became the D&D class, the Ranger. However, there's been some criticism from some people who play it that the Ranger just isn't very good. Which makes me sad, because I've always liked playing him. And, unfortunately, it deserves a lot of the criticism that it gets. It's not great. I'm currently playing a Ranger in my Curse of Strahd game. And while she is a very fun character to play, mechanically, she's not as good as some of the other people who are playing, which is kind of a shame. But, hopefully this deep dive, rambling video essay will help explain to maybe some new players, maybe some older players, maybe some people who don't really care and just need something to listen to for, probably an hour while I ramble. Hopefully I'll explain how we got here and how things have incrementally gotten better, and what you can do at your table to make I don't want to say better Ranger, but a Ranger that might be a little bit more fun. So, how do we get here? Well, let's start where we started everywhere, with the Player's Handbook. Now, I'm scrolling on D&D Beyond right now, because I don't really feel like recording in my messy apartment and showing off my kind of musty old Player's Handbook. But let's start here with the quick build and the table. So, Rangers don't have to use ranged weapons. That's kind of a misconception that I've been seeing on the internet, since I started playing, and I never got that. The word ranger refers to, the range, the wilderness. Not oh yes, the ranger, the user of ranged weapons. It's not like an archer. Although, rangers make incredible archers. For the quick build, they talk about, you should make dexterity your highest ability, followed by wisdom, which is fair. Because most rangers use bows, or crossbows, or whatever. Or they use finesse weapons, like short swords, or rapiers. One of the archetypal ranger things is dual wielding, which is usually a dexterity thing, but as they point out here, some rangers make strength higher than dexterity. Which is all well and good, except that for multi-classing you need dexterity and not strength. So if you make a strength ranger and you want a multi-class, technically speaking, you can't do that. And it also says to choose the Outlander background, which we'll get to that. So, what makes a ranger a ranger? Well, they're tough. I'm going to skip the class table for now because I'll cover it in more detail as we go. But you start off with a d10 hit die and 10 hit points, and that's pretty solid. Used to, they were a bit more fragile in older editions. And start off with some equipment. You get medium or light armor. You get 3 skills instead of the usual 2, which I'm a fan of. They're supposed to be kind of like nature rogues, but also like nature fighters, but also kind of like druid warriors, and it's just a whole thing. The ranger concept in older editions of the game, and I've played a couple, they get a favored enemy. You get really good at tracking and fighting a specific enemy type. And in 5th edition, they carried that over. Choose a type of favored enemy. These are all the character types, the creature types, rather. You have advantage on survival checks to track them, and on intelligence checks to recall information about them. And you learn a language. And I get to pick another one, a level 6 and 14. Now, that's not bad. But I am not the first person to point out that, when you start off a game at level 1, you want your first stuff to be immediately useful. Your main spell casting classes start off with spells, for example. The wizard starts off having a way to recover spell slots quickly over a short rest, which is nice. The fighter starts off with a fighting style. Some classes even get their subclasses at level 1 because they want you to just out the gate have that stuff. And that's fine. So, in session 1, if the ranger stuff is going to be useful, you need to be tracking or learning information about one of about a dozen creature types. Which basically means you have to go up to your DM and say, hey, I picked Celestials as my favorite enemy. I hope when we're level 1 we're going to be hunting and tracking Celestials, which are usually good aligned, high level monsters. So you're probably not going to be fighting them, and you're probably not going to be tracking them. But, yeah, that's fun. So, if you pick wrong, and as you can see there are a lot of options, you're probably not going to get to use this feature in your first session, unless you already know ahead of time what you'll be fighting. The ranger that I'm playing has favorite enemy. That's controversial. We'll get to why that's controversial later. But she has undead as a favorite enemy, and it's in a Curse of Strahd game, which features a vampire as the main antagonist. So I think it'll come up, But not so many characters are so lucky. Yeah, Aragorn's favorite enemy is probably orcs. One race of humanoid is orcs. And, that's cool, but, Middle-earth was crawling with orcs. So unless your DM is just going to completely tailor the game to you, then, this ability might not get used. Similarly, rangers are nature people, so natural explorer. You pick a favored terrain. And whenever you make an intelligence or wisdom check, and you're proficient in that skill, and it's about your favorite terrain, you get double your proficiency bonus, which is, cool, I guess. I picked the coast. My guy's from the beach. It's so fun. I didn't take Natural Explorer for my ranger. But if you hypothetically picked Undead and the Desert, because you want to be a mummy lore expert, and the game takes place, high up on some mountain peak, and you're fighting, I don't know. It's a good low-level enemy. We talked about low-level enemies a couple weeks ago. You're just fighting bandits. You're just fighting some human bandits on a mountain. Then you don't get to use either of your first level features, and it sucks to be you. Also, while traveling for an hour or more, you're not slowed by difficult terrain. You can't become lost except by magical means. When you're doing other stuff, you remain alert to danger. If you're traveling alone, you can be stealthy at a normal pace. You find twice as much food when you forage. And when you track other creatures, you learn stuff about them. And that's cool if you're playing a survival-y kind of game. And that's fine. I like survival. But not a whole ton of games involve that stuff. And you also have to be in that terrain for you to have these bonuses. Again, if you're up on the mountain peak and your favorite terrain is the desert, that's not going to be very helpful to you. So, my advice to level 1 players is talk to your DM early if you want to be a ranger, because both of these features are not very good. At least not at first level. And at least not in this version of the Ranger. Because over time, as we'll see, they tried. The Wizards of the Coast really tried to make the Ranger fun. So, at level 2, what do you get? You get a fighting style. You can pick archery, you can pick defense, everyone can pick defense. You can pick dueling, you can pick 2-weapon fighting. So, you shoot good, you can 2-weapon fight okay, you can 1-weapon fight okay, and you can wear armor pretty okay. So, yeah. They're fine. I'm not opposed to these fighting styles. I do like the ones that got added in later, but I just like them. The Ranger I play has the archery one, which is kind of the best one for Ranger, because a lot of their spells, by the way, you get spells here, require ranged weapons. And that's another issue. So, spells. Tyler and I talked about spell casting a little while ago. Rangers are a spells-known spellcaster. You know two first-level spells of your choice from the Ranger spell list. And you get one at every subsequent odd level. So, levels 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and so on. You get one more spell, which does not feel good. Going back to Aragorn, Rangers are kind of prepared for everything. They need to be able to turn on a dime and really be ready for kind of anything at once. And when you don't have spells prepared, you don't feel very well prepared. And when you only have 2 spells, they better be 2 dang good spells. Oh, also it uses your wisdom modifier. And that's cool, because, like, wisdom's a fun stat, in my opinion. But, it sure would be great if the rest of the Ranger class ever used your wisdom modifier. Like, let's compare this against the Paladin. The Paladin is spells prepared, so they're gonna have more spells than you. And also, they get other stuff that uses their charisma. They get the Aura of Protection, one of my favorite features in the game. You can add your charisma bonus to your friends, to your nearby friends' saving throws. It's like, yeah, okay, cool, great. I'll do that. They have Divine Sense. Number of times per day equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier. You can sense the location of enemies to smack around. Okay. Higher level, they get Cleansing Touch. A number of times per day equals your charisma modifier. You can just prevent spells from affecting people. That's great. Rangers really don't get another feature that uses their wisdom until level 20. So, you're not really incentivized to use it. Also, hopping over to the Ranger spell list now, almost none of these spells rely on your wisdom to be good. Especially at level 1. You know, yeah, you might want your Cure Wounds to add some stuff, but that isn't necessarily always going to be the case. You know, most of this stuff doesn't require a save. Animal Friendship requires a wisdom save. Most animals have pretty lousy wisdom saves. Ensnaring Strike requires a strength save. Okay, but Hail Thorns requires a dex save. Okay. Snare requires a dex save. Okay. But those are the only saving throw things at first level. And also, we're about to meet my favorite spell, Hunter's Mark. It should have been a class feature. You pick a creature, and you poke them for extra damage, and you have advantage on perception and survival checks to track it, and you can move it around if you kill stuff. I feel like Hunter's Mark, this spell, this one bonus action concentration spell, is the bane of Wizards of the Coast's existence with the Ranger. Because it's very good. But also, it takes a bonus action to cast, and it's concentration. And when you upcast it at 3rd or 4th level, it lasts longer, and at 5th level, it lasts a day. So, cool. So, the Hunter's Mark will be back again in a bit. So, why is that a problem? Well, it's kind of quantifiably the best Ranger spell at 1st level. So, if you're not casting Hunter's Mark, well, you're probably just not going to be doing a whole ton of damage. Compared against the Paladin, the other half-caster in the player's handbook, they get Divine Smite here. They can spend spell slots to really put the hurt on somebody. Similarly, the other half-caster, the Artificer, gets their infused items here. That's kind of their whole shtick, is being able to make magic items. Ranger doesn't get anything else at level 2. Their main thing is probably going to end up being Hunter's Mark. And since that's concentration, you can't cast any of the other plethora of concentration spells. Even the really fun ones like Hail of Thorns and Detect Magic and Alarm. And since you only have 2 of them, and you're only going to get 1 more before you get 2nd level spells, and you should really be grabbing those, it's going to be kind of difficult to justify picking anything else. And that comes back around to the main problem with the Ranger. In these first 2 levels, we've already talked about, you make a lot of choices all at once. And it is very easy to pick badly. And it is very difficult to remedy that as you move forward. I'm being very negative here. Pick Hunter's Mark. It's fun. Again, it's one of my favorite Ranger spells. I think it's most people's favorite Ranger spell. At least at 1st level. So, that's fun. At 3rd level, you get a Ranger archetype. There's the Hunter, and then all these other ones listed on the side. In the Player's Handbook, they have the Hunter and the Beastmaster. And they were not super great, but we'll get to the subclasses at the end. Later on, they added in the Gloomstalker, the Horizon Walker, and the Monster Slayer. I'm playing a Monster Slayer, it is very fun. And in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, they added the Fey Wanderer and the Swarm Keeper. I like the Drake Warden, but it's not official yet, so we're not going to talk about it. Just keep the Ranger archetypes in mind. Also get Primeval Awareness, which is just a bad ability. It is quite possibly the worst ability in the game. When I wrote my outline for this video, this didn't make it into the first draft because I forgot it was there. You spend a spell slot to learn if aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fey fiends, or undead are within a mile of you. You don't learn where they are, or how many of them there are. If something is a mile and 1 inch out of your range, too bad. And also, like, again, this is good for a survival type game. You're trying to find, oh, there's a dragon that we've been tracking. We need to find it. This is useful for that. Okay. Well, cool. Your DM's probably gonna just have it be a survival challenge, and then you'll find it. You know, most DMs aren't gonna be like, okay, you need to spend your Primeval Awareness ability that's totally useful. I watch Critical Role, and that's a fun time for me. I'm not saying it's the best D&D game ever, but I quite enjoy it. In the first campaign, Laura Bailey played a ranger. I think she used Primeval Awareness exactly once in 115 episodes. and it was literally, I think that person is a dragon in disguise, rather. And I just want to be sure. And then she used this ability, and then I think Percy just pulled a gun on that NPC. It was like, okay, we're done now. So yeah, that's fun. It's so fun, so useful. Just, most games don't have an intensive, survival aspect, and Rangers are really good at that. But how often is that going to come up? A level 4, 8, 12, 16, and 19 to get ability score improvement, that's normal. That's fine. Whatever. So that's good. We're exiting tier 1, and I have said 2 things are good about this class. Well, 3 things are good about this class. And it's that they get 3 skills, they have a fighting style, and they get ability score improvements. So that's promising. Level 5, they get an extra attack. Cool. At level 6, they get another favorite enemy and another favorite terrain, which might be more useful at level 6, but isn't super useful ever, really. Level 7, you get a subclass thing. Level 8, you get land stride. Similar to primeval awareness, how often is this going to come up? While moving through non-magical difficult terrain, it costs you no extra movement. You also pass through non-magical plants without being slowed by them. And if they have thorns, you don't take damage from them. Also, you have advantage on saving throws against the Entangle spell, or other magically created plants. I have a really difficult time thinking of any spell like that. Maybe the Oath of the Ancients, Channel Divinity? Maybe? But I think that's also a dex save, and you should be pretty good at those, so... speaking honestly, I can't remember the last time I had a game in which non-magical difficult terrain was a thing. I think one time we were sloshing through, a swamp. Okay. Just, how often does that come up? I guess if you're playing a game in Chult, maybe? Chult is the swamp part of Faerun. It's confusing. Whatever. So Landstride is not a very broadly applicable ability, but you can see how it fits the Ranger theme. It's good. Moving through non-magical difficult terrain. Yay. If you want to make this better, you could just get rid of non-magical and just make them impervious to difficult terrain. And I think that would be better? I still don't think it'd be super useful. Level 8, they also get an ability score improvement. At level 9, you get 3rd level spells. You get 1 3rd level spell. Yippee. It's probably going to be Lightning Arrow. At level 10, you get Hide in Plain Sight, which is fun and evocative, but not very good. You can spend a minute creating camouflage if you have the materials around, and then you can press up against a solid surface and not move, and get a plus 10 bonus to stealth checks until you move. So, yeah, that's fun. It feels very Rambo. You press up against a tree and you're covered in mud and twigs, and you're like, aha, I got you. I'm very stealthy. But also, there's a 2nd level spell called Pass Without Trace, where you can, move and do stuff, and it gives you plus 10 to stealth checks as well. And by 10th level, you have 3 2nd level slots, and if memory serves, 2 3rd level slots, so, you can just cast that instead. Or, any of the other casters who get Pass Without Trace. Or you can just be good at stealth, because I don't think you're ever going to be in a position where you need to be just supernaturally good at stealth. So, yeah. It's, just, you have time for this. It's not like, oh, if you don't move on a turn, you're invisible. It's just, oh, you have to spend 10 rounds and hide good. Great. At level 11, you get another subclass thing. Level 12, an ability score improvement. Level 13, you get a 4th level spell. Hooray. Level 14, you get Vanish to hide as a bonus action. So, hide in plain sight feels kind of pointless. It also, this is 1/3 of a 2nd level rogue feature. That being Cunning Action, which allows them to dash, hide, or disengage as a bonus action. Also, this is something that didn't really come up, but a lot of ranger spells are bonus actions. It's in the casting time column here. Ensnaring Strike, Hail of Thorns, Hunter's Mark, Zephyr Strike, Healing Spirit, Flame Stride, Lightning Arrow. Just all of the buffs that you can use in a fight. Grasping Vine, Guardian of Nature. They're all concentration, they all use a bonus action. Which is fine, it's okay to have those spells, but a lot of subclasses also use your bonus action. Which means you're going to have to pick and choose when you get to do your cool ranger things. Your next main class feature thing. Oh yeah, level 14 you also get your 3rd favorite enemy. So, yeah, it's the end of the campaign. Congratulations, you can hide good and track 3 things good. Level 15 you get your subclass thing, your last subclass thing. Level 16 you get an ability score improvement. Level 17 you get 1 5th level spell. Rangers don't exactly have a whole ton of 5th level spells. They get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to choose from. I quite like Steel Wind Strike. It's a melee thing. I also quite like Swift Quiver. It gives you 2 free shots as a bonus action. But yeah, it's slim pickings. At level 18, you get Feral Senses. So when you fight a creature you can't see, you don't have disadvantage on the attack roll just because you can't see it. And you don't have blind sight, but you know where invisible stuff is within 10 feet of you. As long as you're not blinded or deafened. Okay. So you don't have, like, true sight or anything like that. But you just know where they are. I feel like they really want to give you blind sight here. And maybe just blind sight would be a better gift here. Here, have 30 feet of blind sight. Woohoo. But, yeah, it's... Again, how many invisible enemies are you fighting? Yeah, at level 18, you're probably rolling into final boss territory. If you even reach this level, and your gift is, oh, if something happens to be invisible, you're extra good at hitting it. Or actually, regular good at hitting it. So that's fun. At level 19, you get an ability score improvement, your last spell for a total of 11. And you get Foe Slayer, the first ability that uses your wisdom for anything. Once on each turn, you can add your wisdom to 1 attack roll or 1 damage roll against 1 favorite enemy. Cool. A level 20 a paladin can go Super Saiyan and like make 3 attacks a round and have advantage on spell saves and fly. You can add another modifier once a turn. So what does that say about the ranger? Well, they're persistence predators. Their main thing is Hunter's Mark. It never goes bad. You get an extra D6 and you're better at tracking stuff. And that's kind of the whole ranger thing, is Hunter's Mark. So, people were unhappy with this ranger that's frankly not very good at much. And that's kind of a bummer. So much of a bummer that 2 years after 5th edition was released, Wizards of the Coast put out this page-long apology, citing that the ranger's status as a sore spot has been the cause of concern for a while. So yeah, that's encouraging. So they made the revised ranger. This was their first attempt at fixing this class that was labeled too niche, too inconsistent. You know, the only features that I said were actually good were that they have spells, that they have a fighting style, that they get ability score improvements, and extra attack. So, yeah. How do we make that better? Well, this wasn't attempt 1. They actually made a couple of Unearthed Arcana attempts before this. But I'm going to call this the first major attempt. So, here it is. The Revised Ranger. With Favored Enemy, they made it 2 different features. At level 1, you got a Favored Enemy, and at level 6, you got a Greater Favored Enemy. You picked a thing, you got a +2 bonus to damage rolls against them, and that's it. We're going to skip down to Greater Favored Enemy, and increases that damage to +4. And you have advantage on saving throws caused by them. So that's great. I think already they were saying, oh yeah, maybe the ranger should be good at like hurting stuff sometimes. Also, Natural Explorer gives you all the stuff that, you know, you had before down in this section, but you didn't pick a terrain. You're just that good. Also, you ignore difficult terrain, have advantage on initiative rolls. On your first turn, you have advantage on attack rolls against creatures that have an act, making you like an ambush guy. Okay, that was kind of a lot. You know, in the base ranger, you ignored non-magical difficult terrain at level 8. And they're just handing it to you for free at level 1. I think they really wanted people to play this and say, you know, oh, this is good. There's a reason this didn't get published, is what I'm saying. You got a fighting style, the same fighting styles. Spell casting is the same. So they did not have any cunning ways to get around the Hunter's Mark conundrum. They completely changed Primeval Awareness. It's this really long ability now that's like, oh, you can talk to animals and determine what it needs and wants. And also, if your favorite enemies are nearby, you can spend a minute in concentration to sense if any of them are within 5 miles. And it reveals if they're present, their numbers, their general direction, and their distance in miles from you. And like, oh boy, that's a lot. I'm good at fighting undead. Okay, cool. There are 274 zombies 2.3 miles away from you. Okay. So yeah, that's, let's say, kind of a lot. But at least they were recognizing Primeval Awareness was bad. And they were trying to fix it. Ability score improvements at the same level, greater favored enemy, same deal. You get a... They did split them into, like, lower level and higher level things, but you only get 2 of them. Level 8, they gave you Fleet of Foot instead of Land Stride, which allowed you to dash as a bonus action. I still don't think that was all that good. But at least it was something, because they already made you impervious to difficult terrain. At 10th level, if you don't move on your turn and you hide, then stuff has a -10 penalty to their perception checks. So yeah. It's still not very good, but at least it's like, oh, you press up against a tree and now you're hiding. It's like, okay, cool. So, again, same name of the ability, hide in plain sight. Cool. But now it's just kind of framed differently, and it doesn't take a full minute. A 14th level, you can hide. Also, you can't be directed by non-magical means unless you choose to leave a trail, which was something that was in Natural Explorer before now, I think, if memory serves. I don't want to make a liar out of myself. Nope, that's part of that ability always before now. Whoops. But yeah, so cool. Feral Senses is the same, and Foe Slayer is also the same, which is okay. I think that what they wanted to focus on the most was, the lower level stuff that people actually got a chance to use. Which, on one hand, I get. But on the other hand, then I don't want to say that Wizards of the Coast doesn't care about upper level play, but they don't. So, why did this not get published? Well, in a series of tweets that have either been lost to time, or maybe they weren't on Twitter, maybe it was on some other social media, they commented that they didn't feel good about just saying, oh, here's the same ability with the same name, but it works different now. They didn't want to make people buy another book that invalidated the player's handbook. They didn't want to say, oh yeah, this is the new, better ranger that just is good at stuff. And that old bad ranger, just don't play it. Naturally, that prompted some people who played 3rd edition say, well, why don't you just make a new edition? Make a 5 revised edition, or a, back in 3rd edition days, there was a 3.5 edition. It's officially 3rd edition revised. And they said they didn't want to do that, because again, they didn't want to make people buy another book. The 5th edition Player's Handbook is one of the best-selling D&D books of all time. I think it is the best-selling D&D book of all time. I don't think they're going to feel great about catching that lightning in a bottle again. So yeah. I'd also like to take this time to address the elephant in the room, or perhaps rather just the Beastmaster in the room, because this was one of the driving reasons why people were upset with the Ranger. The revised Ranger, which we just looked at, has its own unique Beastmaster as well. And that could be a problem. Back in the playtest days of the D&D Next playtest, which is a deep cut, it's what came before 5th edition, they were like, hey, we're experimenting with this idea. Why don't you just pick a stat block and you tell us what monster it is? And it's like, oh yeah, this one has a swimming speed, and it can be like an alligator, it can be an abnormally large goldfish, or it can be a big salamander, whatever. This one has a flying speed. It could be like an eagle, or it could be just a big mosquito, or it could, whatever. But old school D&D fans did not like that. They liked being able to pick a monster and being like, this is my buddy, out of the monster manual. And we still live with the consequences of that choice today, because that's how 5th edition was really shaken out over time. In the Player's Handbook, you pick a beast that is no larger than medium, and no higher CR than 1/4. Then add your proficiency bonus to its AC, attack, and damage rolls, and its saving throws and skills that it's proficient in. And it has maximum hit points equal to 4 times your ranger level. So that's great. It takes its turn on your initiative. You can tell it where to move, and you can use your action to make it attack, dash, disengage, or help. This next sentence was not in the original player's handbook. If you don't issue a command, it takes a dodge action. Yeah, they had to add that in later. Used to, if you didn't issue a command, it just sat there. And once you have the extra attack feature, you can make one weapon attack yourself when you command the beast to take the attack action. So that's not fun. If you're incapacitated or absent, the beast acts on its own. You can use its reaction for free. While traveling through your favorite terrain, you can move stealthily at a normal pace. If it dies, you can spend 8 hours finding a new one. Just, Player's Handbook Beastmaster was very much the angry father of ranger subclasses. It's like, okay, we can get a dog, but you have to promise you'll take care of it, because I'm not picking up its poop after it goes. And it stuck to that. Because it was bad. At 7th level, you can use your bonus action to make a dash, disengage, or help. And a lot of people just use that to bait, like, oh yeah, my owl with flyby flies past a thing, uses the help action, I get advantage on my attack roll, and it zips out of the range. They had to add this in later through errata. In addition, it's now a magic for overcoming resistance and immunity. Because it didn't have that before. It was just kind of bad. I mean, the attacks weren't even all that good. But, yeah. On 11th level, when you command it to take the attack action, it can make 2 attacks. Or it can use multi-attack if it has that. Cool. So you can use your action to make your beast make 2 attacks, and then attack once. And at 5th level, if you cast a spell targeting yourself, you can also make your beast companion be affected by that spell. Okay. That's mostly good for, like, cure wounds, I have found. And that's kind of it. Just, you have this monster that you plucked out of the monster manual, or wherever. And, it loses some stuff. And that's just kind of how it is. You know, people complained that, like... You know, I think people had a lot of issue with... Oh, if it dies, then you're just sort of stuck with it. You know? Oh, I had this gorilla, and I really liked this gorilla. And then it died. So now I have to go fight, like, a crocodile or something. And it's just like, you know, that doesn't feel good. People like pets. I mean, I have 2 pet birds. And I love them to bits. If I were like, oh yeah, I want to play a ranger who has a bird and base it off of my very mercurial cockatiels, then, first of all, that'd be a very fun character. But second of all, I wouldn't feel good if, you know, if my bird died, and then the DM was just like, yeah, it stays dead. Go to hell, Kyle. Just, it's sad, you know, people get attached to their pets. And this was the original pet class. Back in the day, every ranger had a beast companion. Like, it was just a class feature cooked into the class in previous editions of the game. Which brings us to the revised ranger. It gives you a list of beasts to pick from. Notice that they are all land-based. An ape, a bear, a boar, a badger, a weasel, a mule, a panther, or a wolf. And then you spend 8 hours making it your friend, and then it loses multi-attack. And, blah, 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 blah. It gained ability score improvements, which is fun. It also gained the benefits of your favorite enemy and greater favorite enemy features. So yeah, it was a big buff. It didn't take any actions to command them as well. It also got like traits and flaws, and they were experimenting with a level 5 subclass feature, coordinated attack. When you attack, then your animal uses its reaction, it also attacks. It's like, okay, cool. And they have these little sidebars, like, why no multi-attack? Expanded companion options, keeping track of proficiency, you know. I think they were having a lot of heartburn over it, because they wanted these beasts to be cool. Who doesn't? I love my pets. My birds aren't exactly, trained attack birds. Gosh, that sounds like a nightmare just thinking about it. But, you know, I care about them deeply, and I would feel really sad if they didn't do so well. I think it also if your animal companion is ever slain, the magical bond allows you to spend 8 hours and 25 gold worth of stuff to recall your companion's spirit and just make a new one for it. And, like, that's cool, I guess, but it doesn't feel very good to be like, you know, you gotta have 25 gold stashed in your sock to revive, you know, to revive Fido. If Fido goes down, yeah, that's great. A level 7, instead of, oh, you can use a bonus action to command it, because it got rid of the action economy part of this. It's like, oh, it just has advantage on saving throws when it can see you. It's like, okay, cool. It basically got whirlwind attack at level 11. And at level 15, it got sort of a weird, like, protection fighting style sort of thing. And I think that's cool, but it just doesn't feel good. It didn't feel like the beast really cared. It didn't feel like it was part of your set. It just felt like you were controlling two creatures, two pieces on the board. What made this all feel much worse, especially after the revised Ranger was never published, was a couple years later, the Battlesmith Artificer has a special stat block for its Steel Defender, and everyone loved it. I mean, I'm not going to say everybody loved it, but a lot of people really loved it. And I think that really sort of frustrated some of the design team. Because, like, you know, they're like, well, during the playtest, you guys said you didn't want just a stat block, just a generic stat block that you got to reflavor as whatever. But as 5th edition has worn on, things have changed. And I think part of that is in the 2019 class feature variant. It came out at around the same time that the Artificer became official. And one of the big main things here, we'll talk about this next, is Ranger companion options. You have a Beast of the Air, you have a Beast of the Earth, and they were trying to just, like, combo together the stuff from the player's handbook and all that. It's like, oh, you had your proficiency bonus here and there and whatever. Until eventually, in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, probably one of the more prominent books you should grab, they just have this, and they're like, yeah, here you go. And now this is what we use. It's just sleek and well designed, and it uses your bonus action to do stuff. And that's kind of the end of it. You know? Just, the Ranger really suffered from a lot of older players saying, oh, well, this is how it's always worked. Used to, favorite enemy didn't do any damage. Yeah, but you also got, like, damage buffs. You got a lot of floating damage buffs to your stuff that has largely been replaced by fighting styles now. There's also Hunter's Mark, which is a thing that we're about to get our hands all up in. And a lot of people really liked the old school idea of, I want to grab a thing out of the monster manual and say, yeah, my guy has a panther, because Drizzt Do'Urden has a panther. I do feel like part of the reason why it was originally, when you take the attack action, your beast can make an attack, is because of Drizzt. You know, he is a 2-weapon fighting Beastmaster Ranger. That's his whole shtick. And if 2-weapon fighting takes your bonus action and commanding your beast takes your bonus action, then you're not using one of them every round. It's also part of why in Tasha's they're like, oh yeah, it dodges unless you use a bonus action to command it. You can sacrifice one of your attacks and take the attack action to command the beast to take the attack action. And that combos with its 11th level thing, so if you take the attack action and swing once, your beast can attack twice, and then you can use your bonus action to 2-weapon fight Drizzt Do'Urden, or you can use your bonus action to make the beast attack twice again. Oh, and if the beast has died within the last hour, you can spend a spell slot to bring it back in a minute with all its hit points restored. And when you finish a long rest, you can summon a new one. But I always like to flavor this as like, yeah, you can like magically essentially polymorph your beast companion. Oh, I have this super cool panther, but we're about to go underwater. Well, this panther's about to grow gills or something. I don't know. It turns into an alligator. It becomes a beast of the sea for a while. It can breathe underwater now. It's the same guy. But yeah, let's get back to the class feature variants, because I think this is where they finally figured out how to fix the Ranger. I used air quotes. You guys can't see me. I used air quotes, quote unquote, fix the Ranger. So they had Deft Explorer. You had to pick one at level 1, one at level 6, and one at level 10. You gained proficiency in a ranger skill and doubled your proficiency. You gained 2 languages. You can walk 5 feet faster. And you can restore... Wait, no. You can gain temporary hit points, not restore hit points. You can gain temporary hit points. And decrease your exhaustion at level 1. You also got Favored Foe, giving you the Hunter's Mark spell for free. And cast an times equal to your Wisdom modifier, which would make people invest in their Wisdom, because Hunter's Mark is the best. Also, it wouldn't take concentration. Man, that's a great ability. I sure would love if they had kept it like that. So, this made the Ranger super cool, especially as a 1-level dip. You could grab Hunter's Mark a few times. You could pick any of these, including reducing your exhaustion by 1 on a short rest. And that's great. It also gave you the opportunity to get some druid cantrips if you want to do cantrips. Some extra spells. Many of these made the list, but a few of my favorites did not. I really love the idea of a Beastmaster with the Awaken spell. And they just got rid of that. So, no. In the optional class features chunk, well, I suppose we'll get to that. Spell versatility just went the way of the dodo, which makes me sad. All the spells prepared. Casters had this in its class feature variants, and people did not like it. I'll admit at the time, I did not like it. But I wish that it had stuck around in some form. Other than, when you level up, you can change the spell. Okay. Again, I feel like Rangers should just be a prepared spellcaster to feel more like Aragorn. Be prepared for everything. Also, you can use a Druidic Focus, so that's cool. They replaced Primeval Awareness, which was the, Primeval Awareness was the, like, spend a spell slot and learn if things are nearby for just, these extra spells. Cool. I think that was kind of their way around giving them, spellcasting stuff. I think another thing is that a lot of these are ritual spells. And that's something I'll get to at the end. I think they wanted to give Rangers ritual spellcasting. The ability to cast some non-combat spells outside of fights for free. And I think that would have worked. All of these, except maybe Speak with Plants, I think, are ritual spells, like the Ritual Tag. You can just, spend 10 minutes. If a wizard knows these, they can just, woo, there you go. They trimmed down the number of these that you got over time, but I never thought this was a busted ability, and I think this was just them saying sorry for not making Rangers prepared casters. The also an ability that they called Fade Away here. It became something else in Tasha's. You can use a bonus action to become invisible until the start of your next turn, once per rest. And that replaced the covering yourself in mud and twigs for a minute. Now, obviously there were some issues with what happened there. Not everything in the playtest makes it to the official release. And one thing that a lot of people point out was, you can use Favored Foe and grab Tireless as your Deft Explorer feature and be a Berserker Barbarian. You're not concentrating on a spell, and you just add Hunter's Mark to everything. And at level 6, you have a Barbarian with a great sword that does 3d6 3 times around and can short rest right after a fight and not have exhaustion anymore. I think that gave them some heartburn. I don't think they liked that. So here's what we got. They changed Deft Explorer up a bit, and they're like, hey, yeah, you have to go in order. Also, Canny didn't give you a free extra skill, because that basically just made you a rogue with 4 skills. I do wish roving had been increased to 10 feet rather than 5 feet, but you can't have everything. And Tireless decreased from a D10 to a D8. So Tireless is basically just preemptive cure wounds now. You can cast that before a fight starts and just have an extra well of hit points. Okay. I don't hate that. I will admit I quite like Deft Explorer. It's my ranger has Deft Explorer. Since she also has Favored Enemy instead of Favored Foe, she can speak 7 languages at level 1. But we're getting to that. Favored Foe got kinda cut down a little bit. Because one of the issues with Favored Foe in the playtest was, it still takes a bonus action to use. And that's kind of sad. So this was like, we solved the bonus action problem. When you hit something with an attack roll, you can mark it for a minute using your concentration. And that made people, including me, very sad. I was playing a ranger using class feature variants when Tasha's came out in an Icewind Dale game. This came out and my DM was like, hey, if you want to keep the free concentrationless Hunter's Mark version, we'll just pretend this never happened. Especially since it's a D4 once on each of your turns that increases to a D6 and a D8 at levels 6 and 14. which is super unsatisfying. I guess they just didn't want it competing too much with the rogue's sneak attack, you know. Because, free extra D6s. Sounds great. Yeah. Yeah, no, it didn't sound great. So, favorite foe was pretty horrifically kind of neutered in order to make way for, I guess, not stepping on other classes' toes. It makes me very sad. There's also some additional ranger spells. Awaken did not make the list, as you can see. Also, Death Ward, the 4th level spell. I'm quite fond of that. Didn't make the list either. Got some extra fighting styles. That's fun. And use a druidic focus. Primeval awareness was retained, more or less. I think... yeah. Other than removing a couple spells, that's about it. In a funny bit of serendipity, Commune with Nature, this 17th level free spell you're getting, is basically just original Primeval Awareness, but somewhat better. So, that's fun. Also, and again, abilities go improving, you can change stuff. You also get Nature's Veil, which is just the same thing as Fade Away, but with a different name. And that's the end of that. So, I'd say by and large, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, right here, made a lot of improvements to the Ranger. A lot of the issues I had with the Ranger over here got improved upon. Favorite enemy is too niche. You might never use it. Well, here's an ability you can always use. Natural Explorer is too niche. You might never use it. Here's an ability you can always use. I wish I knew more spells. Also, Primeval Awareness is bad. Okay, here are some free exploration spells that you can just have. And it increases your spells known. Also worth noting, every Ranger subclass after the player's handbook gave you free spells. You know, the Gloomstalker, the Horizon Walker, the Monster Slayer, the Fey Wanderer, the Swarm Keeper. They all come prepackaged with one free spell of each spell level. Because that's good. That feels good. You know? So now, if you play one of those subclasses, and you take Primal Awareness, you'll end up with the Ranger's base 11, plus an additional 10, for a total of 21 spells. Now granted, 10 of them are picked out for you, but that gives you a little bit of wiggle room. Additionally, Hide in Plain Sight, which is bad, just got wholesale replaced. I am fine with that. Also, the least favorite subclass of many, the Beastmaster, got a heavy revision with the Primal Companions, which I am very fond of. I have a number of character concepts already rattling around in my head, because I love animals. And that's something that everyone wants to be able to do. Worth noting, Vanish, Feral Senses, and Foe Slayer never got an improvement. Foe Slayer technically adds on top of your favorite foe feature now. But that's just not very good. It's still a pretty bad ability. If, once per round you can add your wisdom, which you've probably never been investing in. Because everything that was keyed on to your wisdom, your number of uses of favorite foe, that's it really. They made that go away. Your number of uses of Fade Away, which became Nature's Veil. Those were wisdom based, and that would make you invest in your wisdom. But now they're proficiency bonus based, which doesn't encourage you investing in your wisdom. Now granted, a lot of the Ranger skills are wisdom, but whatever. So, where does this leave us? Well, I feel like Tasha's made a lot of good changes to the Ranger. However, as an ardent fan of Rangers who has loved the class and loved the whole concept since I was but a wee little boy, it can be better. How can it be better? Well, I've made a very short amount of homebrew fixes to approach your DMs about if you want to play a Ranger. The easiest fix is just to use Tasha's Cauldron of everything. Done. I'm going to pat myself on the back now, because that is such great homebrew. Well, you're basically just going to be like, hey, can I use this? Because it's, it's polite to ask before you assume. The slightly more discussion-heavy ones are, I'd like more spells. Maybe you could ask your DM, hey, can I prepare spells the way that a paladin does? Every morning, half your class's level plus your spellcasting ability. Yeah, okay. You could ask for Favorite Foe and Deft Explorer to be used in addition to Favorite Enemy and Natural Explorer. One thing I found with my Ranger that I'm playing is Favorite Foe is not very good. And, I'd rather just be better at tracking undead. Because, well, we're at least going to use that, and that way it wouldn't interfere with me using Hunter's Mark, which is concentration as well. As is every single other good Ranger spell. So, yeah. You could just make them a number of abilities. You're good at laying the smack on one guy, and also you're good at tracking one group of guys, and also you're good at surviving in the wilderness, and also you have double proficiency in skill. That might be a lot for some people, but you can talk to them about it. And I think another thing is remove concentration from Favorite Foe. I think that's honestly the biggest crime that was done to the Ranger by Tasha's Cauldron. Because concentration-free Hunter's Mark is amazing. Putting concentration on a worse version of Hunter's Mark feels sad. And I would just make that like a level 6 thing, because, when Deft Explorer was too good for multi-classing Berserker Barbarians, they were just like, okay, well, you have to take the Deft Explorer stuff in order. And then they're like, but Favorite Foe is also too good for Barbarians. They're like, well, screw you, we're just going to make Rangers worse now. So, that's fun. So yeah, I might just ask, at level 6, can Favorite Foe not be concentration anymore? There's a lot of subclass features, including Monster Slayer subclass feature, which is the one I'm playing. That's just use a bonus action and you do an extra d6 to a guy. No concentration. Cool. I think that making Favorite Foe concentration early on is probably just a game balancing thing. At tier 1, they don't want you to just be super good. But by level 6, I feel like you've invested enough. It's not like an extra d6 at that level is too much. I mean, rogues kind of get that pretty often with sneak attack. And by level 6, they're adding it, they're adding 3d6. That's a lot. Now, the most radical option, and one that I use at my table with an IDM, is just homebrew a new Ranger. I don't know if this video is going to pick up steam. I really don't. I'm rambling in the dark about Rangers for an hour. But, I homebrewed this Ranger. I called it the Harmonious Ranger because it harmonized all of the ideas of various Rangers. And I put in a lot of things I complained about. I made Favorite Enemy be a Hunter's Mark thing that scaled with your level, because that was obviously of concern to them. it required concentration at level 1, but you lose concentration on it at level 6, and it gained a number of other things. For Natural Explorer, I gave every level A. While traveling outside of a town or city, like in the original revised Ranger from 2016, you gain some features at level 1, at level 6, and level 10, while also getting the Deft Explorer stuff. Fighting styles are there. Spell casting. I expanded the spell list a bit. I made it prepared and gave them ritual casting. I didn't even touch primal or primeval awareness. I gave them this free ability at level 3 to disengage, hide, or search as a bonus action because vanish is bad. I also gave them evasion because I could talk about it. I'm sure that Tyler and I will talk about evasion in the monk and rogue videos. But yeah, I just sort of made my own. I don't know if this video is going to pick up traction. I really don't. It's sort of weird doing this without Tyler, honestly. But, if this video puts up traction, I'll throw that on DM's Guild and put a link in the description. But, yeah, hopefully this has sort of been a fun little history of the Ranger. They're a favorite of mine. They should be cooler. A lot of their abilities just aren't very fun. I would argue that the Tasha's Ranger is very good, but also just play what you want. I don't really have a conclusion, just it kind of sucks that we need to spend an hour and 12 minutes talking about Rangers because there's just so many things wrong with them. And I mostly just complained. But, yeah. I've enjoyed this at least, and I hope that this has helped some new people fall in love with the Ranger the way that I did. You can do a lot of neat stuff with it, and they're really good at what they do. But, like, you gotta be careful, and you gotta talk to your DM about what's gonna work at your table. I forget how Tyler signs off on these videos. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with a friend. If you enjoyed this, check out some of our other stuff. I've gone pretty in-depth here about, what's wrong with stuff. I know when me and Tyler go over things, we try to be a bit more positive. But, I'm excited to talk about the Ranger with him in probably a couple months, honestly. And hopefully, homebrew for your own stuff. That's what I do. And I'm sure that's what he would allow. And, yeah. Play Rangers. They're fun.